All right, it's 5:30 PM. Today is May 11, 2023, 5:30 PM. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. We begin with the work session. Item number one on the work session this evening is the request for, or discussion for the payment for the facade renovation and the incentive application from Kip Hamden LLP for the location at 319 West Main Street. In everybody's packet, I did include copies of the original application. I gotta say, and I don't know if it's apology or not, but some of the information I provide from month to month may be redundant. I have included it, but sometimes if you don't have it immediately for reference, it is included in there. So, you know, if it's a repetition of what I've provided you in prior months, it's just a matter of bringing it, make sure you have it there. So, this evening, I think I do know we have it to represent and to provide us information, Mr. Carl Gabrielson. He is the contractor and the project manager for Trinidad Construction. Carl, nice to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. And I don't know if you got my email that I sent pretty late.
I did get it, and everybody's got a copy.
Okay.
I hard copied it for everybody on the way out. So yes, we do have that.
So we completed the project. I hope you all have got to see it. We're proud of it. It looks great. And we've moved our offices in there just in the interim until they find a tenant, and then we'll move out. But it was a fun project, and I will say that, you know, I know the intent behind the TURA facade program was to kind of use this as seed money to start a larger project, and they've started a larger project. The architects are working on plans for the rest of the building, including the facade next door. So
it's worked.
yeah, it worked.
You mean the
Good for you guys.
corner?
Well, we don't know the rest of
just
the
okay.
well, you might know something more about it.
The rest of the
Penny's building?
Penny's building, there's some interest in it.
Yep, there's some interest. I heard there was an offer made. We looked at it. It needs a lot of work. As do all old buildings. It's no different than any other old building in town. But we're not ready to move on it yet.
So, go around starting from this side, and we'll ask questions or comments to Carl if there are any.
I love it. Got a chance to speak to, I was thinking, you know what, I'd like an office like this. I wonder if they'll let me rent with all the stuff in there. You know?
That's exactly the intent. That's
Right?
why we put it in there.
Yeah, I think you guys did a bang-up job. It really looks good. Like you said, it worked. What we were trying to do worked. It brings another game back, another player back in the game on Main Street there. And it just, I think the domino effect is working. Love what you guys are doing, and really proud of your work.
Thank you.
Mr. Cochran?
Yeah, that place looks great. And you're getting ready to do the one next door too,
Yes, sir.
so that's gonna definitely help out Main Street. Hopefully, if the Westcourt buildings, the developers that are purchasing that come forward, and maybe you guys can help them out with.
We would love to. Yes, we would love to. Yeah.
We would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks great.
Thank you.
Mr. Lopez?
Keep up the good work.
We
Pass
will.
it on to the powers that be. Thank you very much for helping our community look better.
Likewise.
And by the way, in the packet, there was an attachment in there that included photos of that building from the, and the.
And I have some here if
The
anyone wants to see it.
evening presentation is, you gotta go, if you haven't gone in the evening, you gotta go in the evening.
Okay.
When the lights are on.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the
Commissioner Head?
Pictures look great. I mean, it's really nice. We appreciate what you did.
Thank you. Here's a couple, if anyone hasn't seen it, here's a couple of shots and you can scroll through in the evening time. I took it just after sunset,
Yes,
just about a week or so ago.
It'll be the daytime picture.
I did see it during the day and it looks very good,
Sophie, I have it.
but I will go by at night.
Yeah, I see the
Anybody else?
picture.
Yep, we're good.
Having seen that building, taking a tour and looking at the way it was and seeing how the potential there, I couldn't even imagine how nice that looks. I mean, it looked really bad.
And this was all done in-house locally. Everything was done in our millwork shop here, millwork and cabinet shop here in town, so, you know, the best part about it, not only did TURA succeed and help spur it, but all the money's staying locally.
That's
All of it.
Stephen
That's
Gray.
awesome.
Mr. Leone?
I told him, I said, I've seen it during the day, I haven't seen it at night, but I'm going by tonight.
Great,
It looks beautiful.
thank you.
I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn, but anyway, I went through those buildings, both buildings, and you have done just a marvelous job. I mean, it's amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And that comes to me. Got to see it, beautiful, you showed me on the inside. And which is one thing for everybody to know, and it is in your notes, this was an application that came in 2021. We carried it in 2022, and Carl met with us late last year, told us where we were at. So although we have suspended the facade program for 2023, we did carry funds forward.
This is the
into
carryover, right?
Yes, so we have funds in there, we just brought them forward from last year to this year, so the $8,000 that's up for consideration tonight was brought forward from last year, so it
And
is
it's in our
there.
budget, yes.
Yeah. Anything else? If not, Carl, thank you. I know you have other things to do, so it does come up for a regular meeting tonight, but if you have other things you gotta go do, I'm sure you don't, but we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Carl.
you.
Very nice job.
Again, if you haven't seen it at night, you gotta see it. It's very,
I will.
very attractive and very impressive. Item number 2, we have with our ongoing invitation to Keely Williams, Director of Development Services for the City of Trinidad. And so, Keely, I'll just let you take it from here. You just provided us with some handout, which I had already duplicated, what you gave me the other day, sir. So you all have
Okay.
in that folder I gave you, as well as what Keely has provided to you. So I'll kick it over to you, Keely.
Great. So, this is very complicated. Remember a month ago, I said, why don't I look into this and get back with you and provide you with a report as I learn more. So I learned a lot. I did quite a few things this month. Worked with John, who's our building inspector, and he's going to be presenting on this in a second from his perspective. But I talked to Jerry, we went and saw Jerry and the work that he's doing to combat blight and anti-dilapidation. I worked with Michael Urban, who was going to jump on this call just to clarify anything from an ordinance standpoint. If I was saying something incorrectly, he's probably not on. But Michael Urban is a consultant. He's kind of like a rock star planner, ordinance guy that we hired to go through our ordinance and make some changes. So I consulted with him on some of this stuff, and he looked through it and said, you know what, this anti-dilapidation ordinance looks really good. He said, I wouldn't make any changes to it.
Nice.
So that was really encouraging. So we kind of came up with some steps in our office that we were going to start using internally, and then we'll put out to the general public at some point. But those steps, and there's about 8 of them, and it has to do with due process and getting, making sure we're noticing people if we do find a health and safety hazard, which there are many in the city. Then we need to make sure we're doing the right thing in terms of giving everybody like an opportunity to cure the wrongs. So what we've done in the list I provided y'all with is a list of about 75 properties. They're residential and commercial. I don't think there's any industrial on there, and I don't think there's any vacant land on there. Those properties are ones that have already been through our office, like going back to 2016. So some of these, and in the case of 216 Goddard that we were kind of using as an example, that one has been cited multiple times. It's got fines, it's got liens from the city, it's got tax liens with the county. And so I'm not sure why the county didn't put it up for tax sale. But at any rate, this is not a situation that's like a singular situation. So I think what we kind of want to do is, from the city perspective, work through our backlog, get in touch with everybody, and see if we can have people voluntarily comply to either fix up their properties or deed their properties over, so that we can get some of these rolling. 9 times out of 10, people will probably voluntarily comply. They'll go into an anti-dilapidation agreement with us, and they'll come up with a plan, and it could be 3 or 4 years. Obviously, it's just getting the process going and providing accountability. And so hopefully, out of these 75, most of them, that's what will happen. For the ones that don't, and for the ones that we have to keep citation and keep boarding up and keep calling the police on, for those, we need to take it to the next step, which is involving the court. So I have been meeting with our municipal court judge on Monday. She also works with the county to just kind of talk to her about what those next steps are. I did talk to some folks internally about it, and they said typically we don't do that. We don't move past that step. And I said I think that we probably need to. So that process. Once you start talking to people about going to court, a lot of times, the option is here. You could go to court and you can go through the process. You're a citizen. You're allowed to do this. However, there's another option that if you don't want to go down that route, you can deed some of these things over. And the city is not really, doesn't have an interest in taking on these properties. So maybe it goes to TURA, maybe it goes to the college. Maybe it does go to us until it goes to the right person. Maybe it goes to us, but we have a development agreement with TURA to help us process those things, and then the proceeds, we split the proceeds somehow. Those are just some ideas, general ideas that could happen to kind of avoid those costly court proceedings on some of this stuff. But I think at the very least, I think we should proceed with a few. I think that's just the next step on some of these. And then I think on most of them, we'll probably be able to work with citizens on getting those fixed up, which is the ultimate goal, And then in terms of TURA's agreement, I kind of went over this with Ed, and I don't want to speak too much on it just because I don't know too much about the seating of this board and the what was it, the 1348 provisions, and I think that's just a decision, do y'all want to change your agreement or not, and that's something that's up to the TURA board. We don't have a preference one way or the other. We just want to start seeing some properties get fixed up.
Can I ask a question? There's some burnt buildings, literally
Yes.
burnt.
Yes.
They've just been sitting there 4 or 5 years. Are they part of this?
Yes. And what we've also, I think another thing that we want to do is there's so many properties that we want to set up an online system or just at least something on our website that says call this number, which is our permit tech Tara. She's incredibly organized. She put together this list. She, call Tara or fill out this online form so that we start making sure that they're on our registry. Because we also have a vacant property registry. And in this town, you're supposed to, if your property is vacant, you're actually supposed to register it. So we know, so that we can kind of keep a lookout, and so PD can keep a lookout, and we know if there's vacant properties lying around, if we need to go pull meters, that kind of thing. And we just haven't, I guess, organized it very well in the past. So it's, now that we've kind of gone down this rabbit hole a little bit, I think it's just something that's inevitable on our side, that we're going to start organizing these things and just taking a little bit more accountability for them.
That's great.
So we can beautify our town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Howard.
One of the things you just said was the county and other folks are saying we haven't gone through this process in the past. And I think there were actually not excuses but real reasons for that. If you just look back 10 years ago, it would have been very hard for somebody with a property that had problems just to get a loan. Property values were so down, banks weren't loaning any money, even if you had good things, your property value didn't actually support for some of these loans. So I think you had that. That has changed. The market has actually helped us out a lot there in changing that around to allow folks to get that. And so that's kind of one question I have. I love that where we're moving forward and look forward to us participating a lot more in this, and along with the county and the other stakeholders. I have just a question, and this came up in my mind. when Jeff was going through the process, said, the guy who has that property says he doesn't own that property, okay? So I'm looking at this and saying, and looking 1 through 8 steps, and I see research at the end, and I'm looking at that and said, shouldn't research maybe be number 3 instead of number 8, 7? Because if we go through this, and we go through 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we finally do the research, we're actually going to have to start over again with 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the logic
Let
behind
me
this?
elaborate on that a little bit.
Please.
Research is pertaining to like legal research and title research.
So there's a cost also involved, I would
And
assume,
there's
when
a
you do that. So
cost involved.
you're gonna try and see if you can't do this without incurring any of those costs there. I got it.
And I probably need to, I think this is a real issue. I think this is really something that, yes, is going to need a budget in 2024. I'm gonna need to go, currently it doesn't have a budget. And I need to go to council and say to council, I just wanna make sure we're all on board in doing this. You know, and kind of get their blessing a little bit and then say, okay, I need a budget. Because I've been told that in order to do 3 to 4 of these, it's gonna cost $100,000 between EPA, things we need to do, proper process for EPA, legal, title research, and then, you know, if people show up to fight, it then gets more expensive. So one of them could cost $40,000, which is probably more than the lot value, or they could cost $5,000, you know, and you get through it real quick. So it's just gonna depend, and I'm gonna need a budget to do that.
So just one more question. When you guys are looking at this and you're talking it internally, certainly I see TURA's role with some of our toolkit and the ability to go acquire money in the market in other areas as being, that's one of the roles we can help with. Where are you guys seeing our role?
I would
Because
love.
we're still trying to define sometimes our role in what we bring to the party along that way. Where are you seeing?
I would love to. I think that we are about to create so much work for ourselves that
Mhm.
I would love it if it gets to a certain point and TURA steps in to help us facilitate this. Personally, I don't know if that's the right answer from a city perspective, but that's definitely, I think it's on the table and I think we should consider it.
Awesome. I always just want us to have a seat at the table when we're talking about some of these things that also,
Definitely.
that are in our mission. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Cochran.
Well, I can't read the spreadsheet, and I'm blind as a bat, even with my
Read
glasses.
the one in the, put in that folder. I
Our
expanded-
blind chair.
I expanded it on that.
So I guess my first question is, what's the timeline for each step? Is there a timeline, and at what point does it jump to the next step? In other words, so we have an intake, we have a report made by the city or the police department or even members of TURA or even members of the community that say, hey, just like Ms. Leone said, there's the houses that are burnt down and they've been sitting there for 5 years. So she's made that report. That's an intake. It's been reported. Now, what's the timeline for the next step?
I don't think the ordinance prescribes any timelines. For example, some board ordinances might be like, you have to give someone 10 days to respond. I don't think ours says anything like that. So, you know, it's just a matter of like, if something's sent certified mail, we need that time, that postal service time, that could be a couple days. And then once someone does reach out to us, we need, you know, hopefully they reach out to us immediately, right, in a perfect world. And then John needs a couple days to put it on his schedule and go out and inspect. And in some cases, he might need to coordinate with PD to do that. And so then at that point, like, we might not get to the inspect point. You know, the owner might come in and say, I need to do work to my house. I don't want you coming in and inspecting. I want to come up with an agreement with you guys about how to fix up my property. So they could immediately suspend notices and inspection requests and fines and all those things if they come in and they set up an anti-dilapidation agreement with us. So let's say that they don't, and let's say we can't find the owner. We'll send out a follow-up letter, and if they're not responding in a reasonable amount of time, then we'll start citing them. If they're not if they're not at that point responding to citations, maybe a couple weeks has gone by, maybe a month has gone by, then at that point, given the budget we have and the priority of them, that would move on to a court proceeding.
So I think it's probably important that we do create a timeline for each item.
Yeah.
So that, one, you're gonna send out a notice, and in that notice, that timeline says, you have so many days before we're going to send the inspector out. And then you have so many days after that, that we're gonna send you the inspection letter. And then so many days after that, if you haven't fixed this problem, we're going to, we're gonna do a citation. I know this is a lot of work.
I agree.
And
No,
this
I
is
agree.
great. You've come leaps and bounds and miles beyond where we were. I've been in this board, 5-6 months? And we are way beyond where we started. And so we appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
know,
very
and I
much.
appreciate what John's doing, and I appreciate what Tara's doing, because it was a lot, it was a big file, all these files to try to figure out what was going on and what stage they were in.
Right.
So it was a pretty big effort.
And then, so beyond the timeline, we'd like to work with the city in finding out how TURA can best help the city. I believe that TURA is a tool for the city of Trinidad. We're not a standalone entity that just does whatever we want. We're here to help the city of Trinidad, and I think we're in place to do just that. And later on in the meeting here, I'm gonna go over some brief descriptions of how we can do that, but we'd like to have just a direct and open line of communication with you folks to see where we can best be used. This is fantastic. And it kind of goes along the lines of what I had put together when I walked out of here 2 months ago. My question was, what can we do for the city? And I've kind of answered it, that this is great. And if I could get a copy of the spreadsheet emailed to
Sure.
me, that way
You have this size in your packet.
well, if I get it in an email, then I can
Yes.
highlight. So in these, where are we as far as, let's just do the 216 Goddard. I know we've already done the intake, we've done the input, we've done the notices probably several times. I think it's been inspected. So we're probably at 5 or 6 or maybe even 7.
We've had such a problem with this particular address, from PD to TURA's brought it up to citizens' requests, to just it being in our files for so long, that, yeah, at this point, this is probably one of our top priorities for going to court.
Yeah.
So this might be the poster child for figuring out how we go to court and how we work with the EPA.
Cool. Well, I appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Lopez.
Evening, guys, thank you. This is great, and I'm Luis, I haven't met you yet, I don't think we've met.
None of them have.
Nice to meet you, sir. Just a couple things that I've noticed off the top, looking at the spreadsheet, is the dates of the updated on them. I'd caution us as we move forward, to make sure they're up current.
Okay.
And here's the reason why. There's the 1511 Buena Vista property that has got a brand new house on it about 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was burned down, and then there's a new, and the reason I know that is because it's
Waverly?
Buena Vista, 1511.
Buena Vista.
So I don't want to announce the name on the meeting, but it was a fire, and then they did put a modular on there. And I know that
Great.
because the family members are friends of mine. And then some of the other ones as well, that we might want to make sure that just before you kind of send any notices or letters out, that we have everything accurate.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I see. I think this is a great step moving forward, and I thank you for your time. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Commissioner Heck.
Keely, I noticed where the column for owner, there's a lot of missing owners. Don't we have deeds on record that we know who the owners are?
We probably just need to follow up and on some of that information. Some of the case files were more robust than other ones. So I think that yes, I think by the next meeting, if I was to present again, I could probably have all of this filled in and updated and checked.
Now, another question, are some of these properties vacant? Or are a lot of them, people still in them, or?
I don't know. It's a good question, though. I'd like to know, because if they're vacant, they need to go on our vacant building registration also. So that we can keep an eye on them. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, we got folks that are just bouncing from vacant house to vacant house, breaking it.
Yeah, I mean, I know of one that, the crackheads were just living there, and the cops kept moving them out, and then they kept coming back, and it's like, that's a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle. And it's not fair to everybody else, and we've got neighbors who are, trying to help and trying to identify, and so our guys are moving so fast, but it's like seemingly not fast enough. And that's why I just have this burning, I just want to get organized so bad. I want a list, I want a marching order that we can just work down.
Well, thank you.
Okay, but so anyway, for next time, maybe we'll get this filled in up and then double check it before we send out any notices. And then also get that vacant property list too, so we know, or at least a column.
And I might add, that's one of the purposes of an inspection, is to try to verify, is it a legitimate inhabitant, is it an unauthorized inhabitant, or is it empty? And then what's the interior condition like, as well as exterior and so forth. The only way to really determine that is laying eyes on it.
Well, I hope you have a lot of staff if you get into all of these.
We do not. And we're all brand new, so.
That's what I was referring to.
Commissioner Dion?
Basically then, if somebody has a house that we figure is dilapidated, or property that's dilapidated, you would suggest calling the city and have them check it out, right? Okay,
Yes.
that was my biggest question.
Yes, we're gonna, and we'd love to kind of do a campaign where we encourage it, where we put a new webpage up, something real simple,
Right.
and we put it on Facebook or something, so that, because I bet you, the second we do that, we're gonna get hundreds of calls.
Do these first.
Neighbor
I know.
has too many ambulance.
I know.
Commissioner Baker?
I just want to thank you for,
Yes.
after a long day, you guys coming in here and talking to us. Because I know you guys and your busy schedules. And thank you. And also thank you for coming by the house at 926 and checking out our 920. And just seeing these type of houses and what we can do and utilizing, to go back to Commissioner Cochran's, what can we do and how can we help? And you guys came, I mean, just with both feet, just jumped right into this thing and helping us out. And see, now I think we can do a few things. And like I say, as from a college point of view, I'm kind of in the background here thinking, where can we also fit in? And then we can all kind of move forward. But there's things that doesn't apply to TURA, and I'm just saying, but I want to make sure that we have all the players here and we're all doing stuff. And like I said, I'm really kind of excited, and I can see that your guys' passion kind of is really cool about seeing it for Trinidad. So thanks. I mean, thank you, and this is great. I'm looking forward to moving forward with everything. So anyway,
Great,
Thank
great
you.
work on the houses.
well, thank you.
Incredible.
Just as an FYI to everybody, the information that Keely has provided, and the ADO goes back a while, and they're working on it, so this is a work in progress.
Yes.
What you see here, there will be updates to it, and there's a lot of stuff, but she's provided us information as an FYI. This is a work in progress, and there's gonna have to be a lot of tweaking and fine tuning it. Ultimately, there will be determination, I mean, this is informational for us and fodder going forward, but ultimately, there'll have to be determination on how, if they go beyond the commercial, industrial, vacant, or whatever else, where we're gonna be able to weave into it.
Yeah.
Well, we had Paul Benedetti make a presentation last week, and the determination is if we go outside of the scope or parameters of the plan to go into residential, we're going to have to work with the city of Trinidad. You're going to do it on a 1-by-1, or if we're going to do a full, we're going to just go out in the residential area That will probably become a substantial modification to the plan, and that's going to take a lot of other work, which is going to take us, it'll require us probably to go to compliance with HB 1348. And if that's the case, then it's going to be a whole lot of work, and getting to this is going to be substantially down the road, I tell you now, because it's going to have to require the rewrite, except the going to the districts to be able to get appointments of all. It's going to take a lot of reorganization, what it is. So if we're thinking that when this occurs, there's some steps. There are going to be additional steps. So just want to be aware of that. If it ultimately goes that way, what the city of Trinidad is doing, because of when you look at the outline of how it does, some things just take a lot of time, unfortunately, trying to get through litigation and those other processes. But that's my take on it, and the FYI I'm putting out there. If it ultimately does come, and depending on if there's a rewrite or a modification of the plan, does it require that we have to go to substantial modification and do all those other things that are required? Not a lot that's required, but we got to change the plan. The city's got to change it. We got to change it and adopt it. So there's some steps to it.
But well worth it.
But most of us are going to be around for the next couple of years together. So if I could interject a little bit, I think the idea is this is not a short-term project. This isn't something that we think is going to happen overnight. And therefore, maybe going in and changing these contracts and looking a little more long-term for what TURA does may be beneficial for the city and TURA. Like Keely stated, that some of these have been on here 7, 8, 10 years.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, Ed, being the new kid on the block, I'd like to know what you think about our future role, because you've been here the longest and you know everything that's going on. I mean, what would you consider our role to be?
Well, our role is based upon the plan, I guess. I mean, urban renewal, the concept is not for basic community. It's wherever the city deems that they want us to be a part of. If it has to be out in there assisting with these things, right now that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is the property that we're assisting the city to sell. And so, this could come under the auspices or the purview of urban renewal. These types of properties, get them ready for developer to either take them on the condition they are, take them to the ground, whatever the case may be, and rebuild from there. So, an urban renewal has a place in every municipality. I think there's 65 municipalities in and around the state of Colorado that utilize urban renewals, and there's a purpose for it in all kinds of different directions. Right now, housing is one of those things that they're looking at as well. And so, the urban renewal can and should play a role going into the future. It's just a matter of how we achieve that based upon what's allowed to us by our plan, what we have to change to be compliant with statute.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I was gonna, if you'd like to move on to the next item. The next item is John Wilkinson. It's just he's here for pretty much the same reason I'm here. But he is boots on the ground, and he brought this idea to me at the same time y'all brought this idea to me. And so we're kind of working at this from both ends a little bit. But John, one of the things that he does really well is when he notices he drives around all day long. So when he notices stuff, and there's a lot to notice, he's really bringing that back, and we're trying to log everything that he sees. So anyway, would you like to say a few words?
A few.
Okay.
Welcome, Tell us about yourself, Josh.
John Wilkinson, I'm from Austin, Texas. Got here as quick as I could. I've been wanting to move here since '78. Marriage, family, kiddos, college, paying for 3 college degrees and meal plans and 5 cell phones and unnumbered innumerable collection of wrecked cars and so forth and so on. We finally emerged the other end and we made it here. Thrilled to be here. I bring 30 years experience in corporate America. I specialized in technology startups. I've helped launch 6 companies. I've been through an IPO. I've managed many press tours, media tours, meant to shape perception of products and services across the industry. So that's where I come from. About 8 years ago, I got really tired of sitting at the desk and writing all day, which is my specialty. I specialize in writing, corporate writing. And just really wanted to have a more active lifestyle, a more hands-on work style. And so I made a pretty dramatic shift. I became certified as a home inspector in Texas. That's a pretty rigorous program. And did that on my own for a while. My wife encouraged me to seek benefits and stability from a financial standpoint. So ended up moving into an inspector role with a municipality in the Austin area. And I did that for about 4 years. And then we decided that we were getting close to being able to make the move that we've now made. So we did a tour of southeast Colorado. We've been up here many, many times over the years. But we decided to take a fresh look. And in one of the very few and blessed instances of my life, my wife and I agreed 100%. Trinidad is the place. So we purchased a house here in October. And I got to know my predecessor, Kent, who many of you probably know, because I had some questions about working on a few things around the house. And Kent and I got to know each other a little bit, had several conversations, and talked a little shop. And so we kind of figured out pretty quickly that we both did the same thing and had a lot of similar experiences. And so after several conversations, Kent suggested, John, I'm fixing to retire and leave. I think you ought to apply for this job. And so we chatted some more. And I finally decided that, yeah, this sounds like a really exciting opportunity. And he was so gracious, he actually recommended me to his peers at the city. And I'll move on to important topics very briefly here, but I will say that the community in general, with a couple of exceptions, and the city personnel just universally have been incredibly warm and welcoming and accepting, and that has been so exciting. And I've listened carefully to what we've said so far, and y'all are continuing my initial impression that everybody wants to work together for the common good, for the greater good. And I could not be more thrilled about that, because together we can do everything, apart we can do nothing. There is no truer saying than that. So I'm thrilled to be here, I'm thrilled to be part of it. So speaking about revitalization, I feel that I have a little bit of perspective because I drove into this town looking for a new place to live just last September. And first impressions are everything. And my first impression was we have a great opportunity here to improve first impressions. But we've got so much great stuff to work with. Such a gorgeous historical downtown. Again, warm, welcoming people. All kinds of opportunities. I couldn't be more thrilled to be here. And I have found the city people in general, my peers in particular, to be very forward-thinking, to be very interested in helping move the community forward, which incidentally is not an option. If we are not moving forward, we are moving backward. If we are not growing, we are dying. That is a fact. So our choices are to move forward in a constructive, positive, team-oriented manner, or to slide back into oblivion. That's the choice. And I'm thrilled to be part of helping us move forward. So that said, I'd like to add a few things, and I'll try not to be, I'm watching the clock, it's only been 4 minutes. So what we presented here is really a first ditch effort, and that's really to build an inventory, and it's to kind of get our arms around the scope of this problem, and it is massive. It is going to take some significant work, and it's going to take significant buying. So with that in mind, what we've tried to do is come up with an overview to give ourselves an idea of the scope, the totality of the problem. Behind the scenes, we've been working, we've had a lot of discussions, a lot of informal internal meetings about how this thing could work. All that you've seen so far has really been based on existing principles, on our current codes, our current situation, this is how we've always done things, all that kind of thinking. Behind the scenes, we've been talking about how can we make this faster and easier and simpler and less expensive. And so one of the things that, or one of the concepts that we've been working with quite in depth is how can we get people to voluntarily comply? No court action, no fines, no threats, no fees, no taking anybody's stuff. How can we get people to voluntarily recognize this is far beyond my capabilities to remediate? I need to relinquish to somebody who can. Or people to realize that maybe there's another outlet that they could deed their property to, say, the school, the college, and Jerry's program, which is an excellent, where we all know we have a tremendous shortage of talented trades here in town, licensed trades in town. I all day, every day talk to contractors. One of the things I hear over and over, we cannot get people that are qualified, that are engaged, industrious, to work in our city on a full-time basis. So we have to go out to get subs and trades from all around here. We need those here. So a program like his that gives people hands-on experience and helps them decide, is this something I want to do as a career, is just critically important. But beyond that, and I've got another one in addition to him, is our fire department. Those guys are hungry for opportunities to practice what they have learned in their academies, what they learned through their ongoing continuing education and so forth, to actually put their theories into practice. And the best way to do that is to set stuff on fire and put it out. I'm being a little funny there, but
It's true.
It's true. And Chief's approached us already about this.
yeah, so that's another potential outlet. So we're talking with these various interested parties and trying to figure out, okay, so if this home or business or whatever is not a good candidate for total remediation to become a productive part of the tax roll, a beautiful part of our community, a desirable piece of real estate to transact on, if we could come up with an idea or ways for them to just say, I'm done. I can't do it. I'm too, no offense to anybody, I'm too elderly, I'm too broke, I'm too infirm, whatever the situation may be. And all of those have a situation. If we can remove those barriers and get somebody just to say, you know what, please take it, then we are light years ahead of this long, expensive, arduous process that is guaranteed to annoy some people. We can deal with that. I'm sure we will deal with that, but why not avoid it if we can? So anyway, these are some of the things we're working on behind the scenes, some of the ideas. We've had some preliminary discussions with Pueblo, other places as well. I bring experience from Austin, Texas, who has a significant issue along these lines as well. From New Orleans, which definitely has significant or similar issues. And so some of these perspectives and some of these peers that we can reach out to and have discussions with may be able to shed light on some faster, easier ways to do this. That said, we do need to work through the program that we have. My particular role will be, helping identify properties, helping with inspections to try to come up with the insight to what's really going on there. I will tell you that I'm gonna say 20%-ish of the complaints we get are gonna be unfounded. They're gonna be neighbor disputes, they're gonna be family disputes, they're going to be tattletales, whatever you wanna call them. We see that every day. And so one of my jobs is gonna be to sort through that. Is this a legit opportunity for us to beautify this city? Or is somebody trying to bring us in to sort out sour grapes? So these are just some of the issues, but, okay, it's been 10 minutes. Nine, okay. So I got one to close. Anyway, to summarize, I'm very excited about the opportunity, and there's a tremendous opportunity here. There's no reason in the world we can't move forward. We do need to be sensitive to people's rights. We do need to be sensitive to historical feelings, to familial backgrounds, long histories in the community, things of that nature. But we also have to keep the guiding principle in mind that we can grow, we can progress, or we can die. And that's really the bottom line. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Music to my ears. Welcome.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thanks, John. Question for you. Being from Austin, are you a musician as well?
I was a professional trumpet player for 45 years.
He's a musician as well, so am I.
Oh, very good.
Oh, Louise, what do you play?
Whiskey Creek is the name of my band.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've played about 45 Broadway shows.
Oh, wow.
Played with all kinds of bands and all that kind of stuff too.
We're gonna put you to work one of these days.
Good call.
I walked off the bandstand last May, so about a year ago, and I have not touched a trumpet since then.
Gotta get your opera shirt back.
I don't know, maybe.
Well, just thank you for coming down, and it was enlightening, listening back to both of you. So thank you.
Should be on.
Thank you both. That was very good. And I think all of our questions got answered. And I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, very eloquent. You know, you summed up your whole life now in that 10 minutes. That's pretty impressive, actually. But anyway, just thank you very much, Keely. Thank you guys. Doing a great job.
John, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad that you're on with the city.
Yeah.
And from time to time, we will invite you in. From time to time, if you feel like just dropping in, realizing it is after a long, hard day, but if you want to burden yourself to listen to what we have to say, feel free at any time. But like I say, from time to time, and I'll be in communication pretty frequently with Keely, and we need to do that. But thank you, Ben.
Thanks, John.
So much.
Welcome home.
Thank you. I like that.
I like that.
Item number 3, item number 4, in past communications with Keely, she indicated that Michael Yearman of My Rural Planner would be possibly available. There's no he's called in.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be calling in.
What?
We spoke earlier today, and he was like, I'm not sure if I can make it. And he said, do you need me? And I said, no. I said I would relay if we had any ordinance questions or something like that, that I would relay it back to him.
That's why I think you've taken care of it.
Can I have one question, which I would have asked him? How are we moving with chapter 14?
Chapter 14 has had a first reading. Have they had their first reading yet? I think they've already had their first reading in front of City Council at work session. So he's either going on to first reading or second reading. And really, the majority of what he's working on is kind of just process stuff.
And cleaning up.
Cleaning it up.
Yeah.
There's a couple things in there. We didn't really have anything to find about townhomes. We've already got ADU language in there, so that's good. So really, it's just a lot of process stuff. He's moving boards and commissions into chapter 3, all the, not the bylaws, but just the procedure for that, and naming all of those. And then other than trying to think of anything else that sticks out.
Did it get touched on there were some things that, there was a setback, and then there was how big you could make a home. And when you started doing the math, you couldn't do anything. Did you address?
There's a roof pitch issue.
There was a roof pitch issue. There was some geometry that just almost made it look like it was a moratorium to not grow, not build anything.
Yeah, because we've got tiny home kind of applications in there. It's section 1449 is the tiny home. But that kind of disagrees with what our smallest unit is. So let me follow up on that and then I'll
Because the first
back out.
real estate developer in this town was the railroad. And so these are all railroad lots.
Yeah,
And that's why they're the size that they are.
yeah,
And they were the first developer, they were the first entity that sold these units, and they sold them to be kind of cabin homes for workers. And so we're still stuck with that layout, and I've always found that chapter 14 didn't match that more historical record of what the lots were, so,
yeah.
thank you.
Good point. Okay, so
Talking about
roof
development,
pitch and,
Roof
size.
pitch is the big one, because there's about 5 homes coming in that you're gonna go, hey, your pitch isn't right.
Yeah, and I think that another thing that is changing is what can be approved at a staff level versus what goes to Planning Zoning Variance Commission.
Nice.
So that's a little bit of a change, probably for the better, definitely. And then development, you know, if it's a major impact, if it's a minor impact, kind of defining that, what are the fees for those things? So that's another one he's working on. So
And these things do impact tourist work.
absolutely,
You
yeah.
know, so this isn't just kind of getting out of our lane, that is having that blueprint there and having it really articulated well and able somebody to come in and see what it is,
Yeah.
helps us move things forward as well. So
That
thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that was what John and I noticed coming in here, looking at the accessibility for people that in town or outside to be able to understand what the rules are and, you know, just cutting down on calls and visits that TURA has day to day. I mean, some of this stuff could easily be put online and just presented a little bit easier. So
Thank you.
that's kind of what he's working on.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, moving on, item number 5, Earth Mountain Education Forum, the lease renewal. We discussed this last month and I had communication with Joni Steiner. She did present to us last month. I told her she didn't have to be here this evening because she does live in Weston, didn't think it was necessary. But we're going, per agreement last month, we're going to short-term that lease to take it from its normal expiration date of July the 8th through December the 31st. And that way it'll eliminate having to do this in the middle of growing season and the corn crops coming up. So we'll do that and then it'll be up for consideration for renewal on January the 1st and it will be a January 1st renewal date from there on in. I provided everybody with that updated lease language that's in there and so it is up for consideration tonight. If we approve it, I'll take it to have Joni come bring us a check for $6, sign the lease, and we'll be ready to go for the next period of time. Anybody have any questions?
Nice cleanup work, yeah. Yeah, Dave, that was good. That's all.
All right, moving on, item number 6, Commissioner Jeff Cochran. Commissioner Jeff Cochran did ask for certain information to be discussed this evening, so I will give that to Commissioner Jeff Cochran. He will elaborate and lead the discussion on the information he has provided. Commissioner Cochran.
Thank you. So I think I've left every meeting wondering what can we do? And we went to the seminar up in Denver. We learned about tax increment financing. We learned some of the things that an urban renewal authority can do. But and then we have new members here also. I'm also a new member. So I went online and I started asking. I asked old clients. I asked new clients. I asked chat rooms. We even got some AI in here. But so I wanted to know, what can an urban renewal authority do? How can it best help the city? And it came up, we came up with a few things. Identifying and addressing blight areas. Obviously, we're working on that hard and heavy. The city of Trinidad is creating economic development opportunities. And I think there's a copy. I hope there's a copy of this for you. Promoting affordable housing, improving transportation infrastructure, and encouraging community engagement. And I think 3 months ago we spoke about a letter where we're going to send out a letter encouraging the community to engage with us. Did that, I'm not sure where we're at with that. Did it go out? Do we know?
I don't think so.
We never really okayed it.
Well, we approved the letter, I remember approving the letter, and with some minor modifications, and I know, Ed, I know you came up with that, but have we actually sent that out to our community?
Yeah, and the status of that is we have some differing opinions on that particular letter, and ultimately we said, okay, that's not, it wasn't shelved, but it wasn't agreed to go forward on it, because we had to modify it and then determine how that letter was going to get out there. And with us void of a staff to do this, leaves me to do this, and me can't do that.
I recall us tabling for that, those reasons.
Yes, we had to hold it to going forward, because there were certain logistical things that didn't make it, and one of them was we didn't come to an agreement on what the content of the letter would say.
I thought we did.
Ultimately, now there was.
I thought we did come to an agreement.
We came to a point of almost close disagreement to get to that agreement.
Yeah.
We were real close, but I think we did shelve, we tabled it, we didn't shelve it, we tabled it, and I think, my understanding kind of at the time was, let's see if we can bring somebody in that can help us do that, and then move it forward, so it didn't just fall on. That was kind of
The
my thoughts.
other topic was the addresses.
I thought that's.
Posted,
that's
just corrected, we had the right addresses for everyone.
I thought
So
we-
there was multiple issues that
Well,
we stopped doing it.
So what about doing something like an ongoing public notice in the newspaper that says, hey, we're TURA, we'd like you to come in and engage with us in our meetings.
Well, also,
Just
the
as
city has
simple
added a communication director now, and she's doing a pretty darn good job, I would like to think, and you're starting to see more things with the city popping up on the website, in newsletters, on social media and other places. So the city's taken a really good lead, I think, there in expanding the communication, which we didn't have before in order to do some of this outreach. So I think we can actually, I think we're set up maybe to take another swing at that, or another bite at that apple.
I would really like to see us get the community engaged. I think that although it may slow processes down, it's a real good idea to have the people that live in our community discussing and bringing their opinions forward to us in the city of Trinidad. And maybe something as simple as a public notice in the newspaper saying, hey, we're available every Thursday, or one Thursday out of the month.
I think we did do that. We did some newspaper publications before you guys were here, and we didn't get much results from them. We ran it for about 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I can't remember.
Well, it has to do
Was that
with
with
the facade program.
Facade program.
They were paid ads. And go ahead and finish your presentation, and then we'll go to.
So that was the last one on that. And then I wanted to figure out how we tackle blight. And I'm still at a loss on exactly how we work with the city of Trinidad in doing this. From the looks of it, you guys are able to take this and roll with it, and you have. But what role can TURA play, and where can we be of use? I think that in the other municipalities, their urban renewal authorities have permanent people on staff. I believe. I don't think it's a once a month meeting.
They have money.
Yeah, I think they might have a little bit.
Exactly.
They have staffing and a little bit of money, and I think we might have touched on this concept of getting one person that was a full timer, and that probably would have been somebody that would work under you as a vice chair or something along those lines, or a secretary, I think is what we were calling it at the time.
Director then.
Right, and that might be something we need to take a look at again. I don't know how as a board meeting once a month, we're going to accomplish or make great big leaps and bounds towards even this blight situation. We have one inspector, and just from that list, he could stay busy for quite some time.
That looks like my daily list.
knocking on doors and stuff. I'm just putting things out here to ask questions, but so one of the next things was, or next question was, how can we best help? And urban renewal authorities can tackle blighted housing through a combination of strategies that address physical, social, and economic conditions that contribute to blight. And here's a few possibilities. Code enforcement. I think that code enforcement has been something that maybe the city of Trinidad in the past has kind of overlooked or even just let slide completely. And I think with that list, code enforcement is going to be a tool for the city of Trinidad to get some of these properties up and running properly. Property acquisition and disposition, community engagement. Again, there's that community engagement, which is on the bottom of the first list. We really need to see how we can get this thing out in front of the community and get their opinions, get their input. We need it. Incentives for rehabilitation, and then, the last one is demolition. And like you were saying, so I was a volunteer firefighter, the Blue Ridge Fire Department in Arizona. One of our trainings was, we went out to Morenci, Arizona, and their urban renewal said, these are blight houses and burnt them down if we put them out. And that was all hands-on training. We were in those houses. In some cases, we were wearing the little beepers so that if we stopped moving, someone had to come in and get us. And those were full-on, real training sessions that taught us a lot. And so the last one here today, demolition, that's a great way to go about it, and it's less. It would cost the fire department a lot less than if we had to go out and build a fake structure and burn it down, just for training purposes. So that might be another opportunity. And then the last one I don't think I want to touch on right now. That's what kind of contract the city should have with its urban renewal. I think that's something that's going to have to get discussed. So, yeah, at a different point. But anyways, I can get a copy of this to everybody that might be questioning what can our urban renewal do? What is the process that we can use to best be of service to the city? I know, we have 2, 3, 4 newer members on this board. And, you might not, I'm sure you already know all these things, but us coming in, we don't. In fact, this list was new to me. So I can get a copy of this to you. You guys can take a look at it, come up with your ideas. I really think we should be, as a board, starting to think about how do we move this forward? How do we best perform? That's all I got.
So I continue to become more and more encouraged with every month. I think our board's kind of gelling. I think we've made some real strides in some areas. I think some of the things we did with the budget, some of the things we've now done with help. So I'm encouraged. So when I look at the blighted area, we know, and the chair was 100% correct, as are our experts, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some money, but we're going to make progress, and I think that's what people always want to see, is progress and moving towards it. And so you start looking at that and say, you know what, we're moving in the right direction in the ones that are identifying and addressing blighted areas. Then you start looking at some of our other partners and stakeholders, and you look at what the county's doing with Cougar Canyon, you look at the opportunity there with over $500,000 sitting in a pot that cannot be touched to help the Homey School District and our fire district out there do things. And so I see that some of that's kind of starting with the county's leadership starting to gel and move forward. And we can play a role there. We can play a role in blight sometimes with this, just to try and educate ourselves on what are our funding opportunities, what grants are out there. So when our team comes in and says, we can do this stuff, but it's X number of dollars, it's not just saying to the city, do you have any extra money? We go out in the marketplace and see if there's money there. So I see some of those things starting to triangulate, and I'm really encouraged. When we look at some of this other things, some of these incredible things in our toolbox that TURA can do, like, small scale manufacturing, in order to start getting some of our side streets filled up with folks that are making things, less than 10 people, employers that are making and building and creating kinds of things. I see us being able to look at that as one of the opportunities for economic development that hits the buildings, but also hits the jobs and does some of those things. So I look at that. Affordable housing, I think we triangulate, again, some of those challenges and opportunities by the identification of these things, by making it an invitation, I'll say an invitation for folks that are on that list to say, you know what, my hands are up. I want to turn it over. Please release me from this responsibility. And for other folks to say, listen, I really just need some help getting my home back on the market. And we use our toolbox to say, what do we got in here to help somebody do this? Because we don't just have to help developers. We can help individuals do things. We have a pretty good toolbox in which to work with, and I look forward to the opportunities for that. Transportation, I'm just going to stay away from that, because I think we have enough on our table, and it looks like some of this stuff's being done in other areas. And I will echo Commissioner Cochran's thing, that I think when we figure out this outreach, and whatever wordsmithing we need to do on this letter, which I call an invitation out to people, hey, get to know your TURA, get to know what we're trying to do, here's what we are, we invite you to know a little bit about us, please bring your ideas, complaints, problems, suggestions, solutions. I do think when we figure out what that letter is, and we figure out the postage, and we figure out those things, which is our next swipe and bite at that apple, I do think that it will engage people. And I'm always against the idea that, but we did an ad before and it didn't work, or we did this before and it didn't work. My ears almost always reject that. We did that before, because if you did something before 20 years in Trinidad, it's not applicable anymore. If you did it 10 years, it's not applicable anymore. If you did right now, just based on economic situations, interest rates, macro things, black swans and white swans, right? Events, whatever you did 3 years ago or pre-COVID isn't really applicable, I don't believe anymore. So that's my thing. I love where we're going. I think we've got a great team. And again, I'm going to always say I really appreciate where the county's going with where they are. And so when we're trying to think about how we work with the city and our city partners, we really need to understand that we're partners with the county, with Honey, and with the fire district east of us, and we need to become good partners with them. And when they're at the table trying to get some things done on behalf of the community, we need to know that we need to grab a seat there and do it the same. So really encouraged. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Opus.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman, great ideas. I have a bunch of yabbas.
Yabbas?
Yeah, so the firefighting technique, I'm put the Board of Health hat on now. The smoke, the fire, the neighbors, that type of thing. How do we handle that? How do we protect those people with breathing problems, seniors? So that's the yabba to that, but I like the idea. The second yabba to the burning of the house down is the city landfill. I know that is a big topic with city council. The landfill is almost a capacity. I think about 10, 15 years we've been discussing that. Where do we put it? That's the same discussion that's happening with Cougar Canyon and the Woodwood Town as well. Because that was brought up between Mayor Rico and myself, where would
And the old stadium.
Well, if we are burning it, we are taking it down at least 50% of what it was.
Right, so those are the things, but the Board of Health thing, that popped right in my mind right away, because I work on that. But the main thing here on the $400 million that I'm available to oversee on all the boards that I serve on is, that's exactly what our problem is, around the money. So how do we generate the revenue? How do we find the revenue? How do we ask for that? Maybe does this board go to a presentation to the city council? The city is very proactive with putting in $200,000 recently for housing development in Arizona. Why couldn't they possibly help fund us to move forward with this so we can have a full-time director?
We can't just do like Biden.
No. My machine is broken. So those are the things that I have on here. But I do like all of these ideas to move forward with this. It's just how do we get there? And like our new city building inspector said, we move forward. Move forward. How do we move forward? Do we make a suggestion for a work session topic of budget and a request to the city? Is that something we want to do collectively? Maybe we can add that at the end of this meeting when we have ideas for next board meeting. But those are some of the things that I popped off the top of my head here. And the bottom line is the dollars. So where are we going to find them, and how do we move forward?
Commissioner talking about it.
One of the things that Commissioner Howland touched on, it's something I've been thinking about for a while now, because some of you people, well, all of you people know my background as a teacher. So I'm pretty attuned to the kid situation. And then the other thing is, I have a millennial daughter. She's 32, and she has friends here now that have kids the same age as my grandchildren. So I get in on conversation. So what I hear, and I'm trying to promote the fact that I think this is a great town. It's a great town for an old guy. But I've noticed there were no kids. There just aren't a lot of kids out there, which means there aren't a lot of young families over here. And then digging into that, there just aren't a lot of opportunities. And I noticed that some of my daughter's friends have left the town because there aren't enough opportunities. And, and I don't know if this is something that TURA can do, but economic opportunity is going to be what makes or breaks this town. Because if we don't bring young people in here, then everything we do is great, and it'll be nice for a few years, and then we'll age out, retire, and maybe the next crew of people doesn't want to get involved because it doesn't look like there's anything on the horizon for them. I'm a big demographic guy, and I see the demographics of this town as being old. And unless we can bring economic opportunity here, and I don't know if that's a TURA thing, but you did mention it, then I don't see long-term success for the town. And I think that would be a shame, because to me, this is a great town. I love it, but my daughter, she looked for a job, and luckily we don't need to have her work, but there's not a lot out there. And what's out there, just doesn't pay very well. And the town needs to create opportunity for people. We certainly have space around here to do things. I just don't know what we are able to do, but if we are able to do something long-term for the town, I think it's something that we have to try.
Commissioner Leone?
I agree, long-term is a great idea. We do have an economic development.
Well, we got a department, we don't have a director right now.
Oh.
She's right here.
Hi.
Yeah.
It's me.
We
I
have
absorbed Wally's
You're gonna
position.
be ED though, are you?
Yeah, I absorbed Wally's.
Oh, the whole thing?
Oh, gee.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Did you get a budget for that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do have a budget for that. And so we're probably gonna have a coordinator come on, here in the next week or so. So that I'll have a little bit more support. But basically, I'm just kind of trying to merge my efforts with economic development. So when we're doing things, I'm trying to answer, ask the question of like, what's the return on the investment for the city? But yeah, like, so some things like I'm doing is reaching out to manufacturing companies. One of my first calls I got when I was appointed was a tofu manufacturing company that would create 10+ jobs. So that's coming, that they're under contract now, and so I just try to pick up the phone and respond as fast as I can.
We can help.
Did you say tofu?
Tofu manufacturing is coming to town.
Tofu.
Yeah.
And again, we can help with those things. TURA has that in our box.
Right, I'm only one lady, so I'm kind of making notes over here, but I think there's a lot of ways that maybe we can help each other, kind of take a bite out of the elephant, if you will.
I have one question. How many hats do you have?
Yeah.
I just
We
have
work-
two hats, unless John goes out of town, and then I sometimes wear his hat, and then Chris is out of town right now, so I'm wearing her hat a little bit.
I'm just teasing. One of the reasons that I went back to the college to teach, to answer, because I'm old too. And being a builder, still got something in the tank, I still want to teach. Who's going to teach a lot of the young kids, you know, and try to meet those needs? And so going back to the school, I used to teach in the 90s. And went self-employed for 25 years. And now, for the last 2.5 years, doing just that, to try to stimulate. I feel like a cheerleader, trying to get people involved, especially the youngs, you know, people coming out of school. They don't know what they want to do, because I was that guy. And so anyway, with saying all that, I think the reason we're even sitting up here is because everybody shares that right now. If they share that type of enthusiasm, try to do what's right for the city, that's what I came up here. That's why I you know, when I was approached about possibly applying for this, TURA, I could see how this college, the TURA, and even working with a group of people with the city now, and even in the county, I'm doing some stuff in the county. I want to make sure, and still being a private contractor on top of everything else, so I'm wearing a few hats. But on the other side of that, it's because of what John said. Just because I want to care. I've always kind of been in the shadows. I've been that guy in the shadows. I don't want to be in the shadows anymore. We got something to offer, and I think that's going back to Commissioner Cochran's deal. How can we do that? And I think we're figuring it out. And going back to Commissioner Howard, I think we're going in the right direction. And I would like to say the rudder on this whole thing is our president here. He's going to help us do that, because I think he recognizes what I just said as far as people wanting to do the right thing, but there's the way to do it through the TURA. You know, we're coming with a lot of enthusiasm, that's great, but there's parameters, and I think we take the enthusiasm, put them with the parameters that is set, and then change them where we need to, and I think we've got the right mix here, and the gelling, I like that term, because I was a Homer Pyle when I first came in here. Goalie, what am I doing here? You know, and I want to make sure that when we come here, that, you know, we are just wasting our time. But I appreciate Ed in the sense that he's able to make the rudder work. How do we do it? I don't have all the answers. In fact, I have very little answers, but I do have a lot of enthusiasm. And I think between all that, I think we're going to be successful. And that's my take on it. Would you agree? I mean, most everybody, I mean, that's kind of why we're here. So, and following up with yeah. So, but anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, it's coming around to me, huh?
Rudder?
Okay, well, let me first say that one of the things that's necessary, and I've gone more than once, but I think it's necessary, and want to work with DCI to determine how we can do it. But one of the things that has to happen is that everybody needs to attend a Urban Renewal 101, 102, 103, there are several. You gentlemen had the opportunity to attend, as well as I did, the TIF lecture, whatever it was, back in August in Wheat Ridge, but that's not the full crux to what everybody needs to have. Okay, that's not. There's a lot more to the training to know what we need, and so one of my suggestions is, although we cut our travel and training budget this year, one of the things that we need to do, we need to use it to its fullest to get everybody. I'm going to try to arrange, and I just saw Kat Corral last week at East Street School. She's the executive director at DCI, and we're going to see how we can formulate a 101 in Trinidad, which will include our members, our TURA board members, as well as we'll invite Walsenburg, who have indicated in the past they would do it. That's essential to get some of the questions asked that have been going around the DIE tonight one time. The stuff that you have outlined here, that these are the ideals, And these are outcroppings of what happens when TURA does its job. Urban renewal does its job. When it's not segregated to TURA. When urban renewal does what it's defined to do, which is the elimination of blight. Used to be slum and blight. But the elimination of blighting conditions, which brings forth presentable properties, curb appeal properties, it then becomes the catalyst to businesses to move in. Other people do similar things. Jobs are created. In those 101s that you will go to, they're going to pretty much say, these are things that happen if you do your job of what you're supposed to do in the elimination of blighting conditions. We basically are not involved primarily in, those are the outcroppings, but we are not an ED, an Economic Development Bureau, we're not a jobs creator. Those are not the things that we're intended to do. Those things will happen if we do what we're supposed to do, but we are not the direct drivers of that. That is not what we're proponents of that in an indirect way. But that's not what the job is. We are there, and if everybody has received this, I made it a point, if you didn't get it, you got it. The plan is what dictates what happens. Colorado state statute governing Urban Renewal Authority determines what it is that we're going to do. There's various ways that we can do it. As far as outreach to the community or a contract with the city, that's not basically, the contract with the city is the urban renewal plan. We do have some autonomy from the city. If there's a project or an undertaking, you don't use it a project, that's not really the proper terminology. If we determine and recognize and identify a project that needs to be, or an undertaking, that's up to us to do it. That's not up to the city to have that happen. The city is not obligated to provide us with a executive director. Okay, if you read urban renewal law there, it says that Urban Renewal Authority may appoint an executive director. It also says that I'm not the executive director, I am the chairman, and I bring forth the business of the Urban Renewal Authority. But and I think I've provided you with when I provided you with the initial information. We have somewhat of a dated cooperation agreement with the city of Trinidad that provides us a place to meet and the usage of city staff. Okay, so yes, we are in dire need of an executive director so that all those things that need to be done, all those day-to-day chores need to be done, because those fall within the realm of an ongoing working staff, not the executive or the board. We meet once a month as we designated way back whenever, and we have it contained within our bylaws. We can change those bylaws as time goes if the situation says we need to meet twice a month. That's what we were formulated on. Our bylaws specify that we meet once a month. We may have special meetings if we do it according to state statute whenever we have things to do. So we can do so as well. But we're meeting on a month-to-month basis because that was what was established back when the urban renewal was established in 2015, and our bylaws are what reflect that. So again, I appreciate the information that you provide, but again, these are things that if we operate properly as an urban renewal authority to do the job as described and prescribed in state statute and the plan, those things are going to happen, and we're an indirect part of that, but what we do is the direct thing that has that happen. So in the ideal world, if we do our job in the elimination of the elimination of blighting conditions, I have to verify that.
I didn't just make those up. Those are.
I understand that. Right. Yeah, I understand that. But I'm saying if we do what we need to be doing, identify things that need to do.
Those will fall in.
They're going to happen. These are what should happen.
Right.
Not because of us, but in spite of us.
Understood.
A lot of clarification though. This book came from, and if you want to learn more things, you don't have to wait for a class. If you go to Colorado Downtown Inc., they have lots of resources online, so you can get way ahead of where we're able to budget. There's a lot of things you can read there. But I just want, and don't take this as pushback or anything, but we're not limited to just blighting conditions. There are urban renewals across the country, and many in Colorado, Pueblo included, that are actually doing exactly what's in this book. This is Cambridge. So we can have a direct effect, not just blighting. We can have a direct effect on bringing in manufacturing, on helping fund manufacturing, and putting people in buildings that may have had blighting conditions to them. So this isn't a pushback to what the chair has just said, but I also want to, maybe I do want to push back on it being so narrowly scoped that if it's not blighting conditions, we're out of it. This book came from Colorado, Downtown Inc. Other TURA, other urban renewals are doing this. They're being very effective. You look at some of the things that we've done in downtown Denver, in many of the districts that now, Rhino District, the Highlands, Lodo, what Dana did in most of her career has been with urban renewal authorities with regards to Larimer Square. There's things we can do in this area, and so I just want to say, when we say and we do those things, the chair is exactly right, but we actually have it in our toolbox. And if you go to Colorado, Downtown Inc., you will find an abundance of information available to you that you can go down that rabbit wormhole all as you want.
But it's deep.
It's deep.
I think getting the idea of getting the training sessions or the one-on-ones
Perfect.
are going to be.
Oh, we need
That's
to do
good.
when they're offered in Denver. I mean, those things are offered, but we have to go. It's a matter of looking at the DCI site in order to have that happen. Again, if we had staff available,
Right.
which would get that, it would make a difference, but it's a
To
matter
show
of.
up as if that's money, I think that's money.
Did we say
Yeah,
that? Did we parcel that?
So Commissioner Cochran, do you have some more on
No, thank you. I appreciate what you had to say.
that? Anybody else?
Just, do we have a date and time possible for that?
Well, I gotta see what they have, and it could be a couple months out before she would.
The longer I have a date. the better,
Yeah, well, yeah,
because
it's just a
my
matter
schedule
of
is-
seeing it, and it'll come here first before we agree on it. Because
They did have some training online too.
yeah, it's more online too, but we can do some in-person stuff, which, again, we can host a meeting here to bring other rural URAs.
And one thing about having us all together and learning is we can bounce ideas off of each other. I remember when we were at that seminar, we were talking back and forth.
It creates
So
tribal
I
knowledge.
had notes and I'm like, oh, we could do this, and then I spoke with you and then, no, we can't do that.
But we can do this.
Oh, we can do this, yeah. And so it's
There's a lot of approaches on it, but it's a matter of being able to do it in a collective manner and determine what it is, what we can do.
Right.
And everything that drives us, including all the positions I serve, is state statute. And that's the main thing we have to follow, including.
And all of those fall under that.
Right. But as long as we stay within those parameters and follow the state statute, it's no brainer.
Anybody else? Item number 7, bringing up Colorado Senate Bill 23273. And I gave you the history of that in your packets. A few weeks ago, I was contacted, actually, the first contact I got was an email from Paul Benedetti at 7 o'clock in the morning regarding this bill that had been introduced on April the 10th and ultimately passed both houses on April the 29th in a 19-day span. And it had to do with agricultural land to be included within agricultural land in the URA. And it was one where it was moving very quickly. It was intended to stifle or even stop a project in northern Colorado. It ultimately did not, because the bill, although it passed, it was at the last contact I had with Paul on Monday, it was sitting on the governor's desk for signature. So at Monday, it wasn't there, but it had passed both houses. I did write on behalf of Urban Renewal Authority, Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority, a letter to DCI and a letter and comments to the Commissioner, to Representative Highwinter, who represents our House District in Denver, indicating that it should be opposed. He did actually vote no on it, but it did pass in both houses. So the legislation actually, while it doesn't have today impact on us, it could have impact on the Urban Renewal Authority, us, or anyone other urban renewal authorities going forward, especially in a rural area. So that was the reasoning for doing it. It happened very quickly. And again, it went in the notification or request that I got from Paul happened, it's all happened in a matter of a couple of days. But I think the opposition to it was justifiable, but ultimately it passed.
If I can add, CCI, Colorado Counties Incorporated, opposed it 70% and testified against it as well. I believe Commissioner Felix Lopez and Commissioner Mass also have testified on that as well. But as we're learning, and we see for the past 4 years, it looks like for the next 2 or 3, the party in power is going to get their way and they're going to push things through no matter what. And that's what we're seeing all the time. And it's going to continue to get worse. But we did oppose it collectively for Colorado Counties Incorporated.
So that's the exact restriction.
So, I have a lot of questions, and I don't think the answers are here, so that's okay. But out east in Cougar Canyon, when the city annexed there's a lot of ag land out there, and one of the things that was discussed at the county sponsored Cougar Canyon discussion that was out there was a kind of a de-annexation opportunity. Would actually, that if the city decided not to really move forward on that, was there a way for them to remove themselves from certain areas, open that ag area back up, let the Honey School District and the fire district out there actually take those back over and reduce our urban renewal area, and maybe partner and allow the county and maybe other folks that are a little more eager to move forward on that to move forward. Does anybody have an idea of how, since that property has ag, because we don't have ag in the rest of our urban renewal area, but we do have it east of us here. Did you find it? Was that discussed at all?
There's an assessed evaluation that goes through the assessor's office. And
Right.
so when it's city property, it's no longer discussed as ag. And I believe it is city property.
But the assessor, and I think the other representative you had, actually talked about that there was examples of this, we annexed that area to do Cougar Canyon. We're no longer doing Cougar Canyon, it's the fun.
Well,
Now can we back our way out of that? You see where I'm going with my
so
question?
talking about moving forward, like we've been discussing today, there is a meeting tomorrow regarding Cougar Canyon with the powers that be, City Hall and county administrators and lawyers. So first step is tomorrow.
Was our chair invited to that?
No, it's a city official administrator, Mr. Ruger, and Mr. Starkamp, and legal counsel. Those are the entities that are.
It is in our urban renewal area.
Well, the reason for this is because you cannot have multiple boards in executive session. This is going to be a closed door discussion.
That's it. But this may come up with regards to that.
They'll come to the city council, they'll come to the county commissioners, they'll give us their opinion where they're at, and we'll go from there.
I think it's an option, okay, and I just want,
So there's a movement.
this may actually be a good thing, and it's a bad thing in other places, I guess is what I'm saying.
It wouldn't be a good thing for us as well.
No, this is really bad. The way
No, I'm talking with regards to Cougar Canyon specifically.
But this passed, so everything's in water and bridge.
I haven't been signed yet, but we'll give them a day.
Okay, that was mine.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Leone? Okay. And again, the reason to oppose it was because, one, the various municipalities around the state didn't have an opportunity to really speak on it. It was limited to one certain area in northern Colorado, which was, there's a project that is going to ultimately take place. And part of it is with urban renewal of that area participation. But this being intended for them has changed to urban renewal law as it affects us going into the future. That's why the opposition is there. So, it will in the future apply to any urban renewal authorities. So if you didn't have that agricultural land in your plan and predating 2010, it'll never happen in the future.
I would be opposed to it, but yeah, interesting.
Okay, anybody else, questions, comments on that? Item number 8, Hughes Lumber update. And just to let you know, I am in frequent contact with Paul Benedetti. We are waiting at this particular time in order for him to go forward to create an RFP. He needs to have history on the property. It is, I'm waiting for a title commitment from Trinidad Abstract and Title Company, so he can get it and begin reviewing it to make any determination if there's any restrictions or restricting deeds or covenants on that property in order to make sure that it goes out and developers or prospective buyers are aware of what it comes with. Any questions on? It's a wait and see and a progress, project in progress as well. Item number 7, TURA email. We will now be a part of or included on the City of Trinidad email. Been working on that for a while, and it finally came to fruition. In those packets of information that I provided to you all today, I did provide to you your email addresses and your temporary passwords as set up by the IT department of the City of Trinidad. You will be able to, or should, or required to log into outlook.com, go to your email address and change your password and create that account. Going forward, I would ask that everybody, when you get into that, you remain vigilant, knowing that in the week prior, well, check more frequently. We don't do a lot of communication, but going forward, if there's going to be any communication, it will be on your trinidad.co.gov email address.
And where's our temporary password?
Yours is there.
Just cross it. Oh, no, no, yours is above there.
I crossed it. Anything else? Your name is highlighted?
Yeah, that'll work.
Not?
My name there.
Okay, and then, and
Oh,
over
that's what
outlook.com, when you get in there, just put in your email address,
Oh, I see, yeah.
and
I got you.
then change it and put your current password.
you. Just kind of clarification question. They're not requiring us to install Outlook. They've got a web interface for us to be able to use to log into.
I use Outlook, so-
You go to outlook.com,
So you go to outlook.com.
and then enter your email, look for your
There
account.
usually is a subdomain to that.
Okay. Well,
I don't think they gave us everything.
Well, if there are questions or comments or any assistance needed on, get a hold of Blaine Gutierrez at the IT department. They'll take you forward.
So we're wanting to communicate via this email from now on?
Yes,
That's how you receive all officials.
that's how all your email regarding TURA
Okay.
or otherwise related to
I like
your business will be on the trinidad.co.gov email address. And we should be able to make that happen in June. I didn't want to do anything in advance because
Question, didn't once upon a time they did provide iPads to this board?
they get
Do they still have that option for those that don't have them?
everybody. We can, that's, I guess, a question to be asked here, because one of the things that, and I guess we could figure out if this goes in the admin of it, does anybody desire? Do you think it's a good idea that we have individual devices for city business only?
Well, I use
I mean,
accounting.
TURA business only.
I use accounting for everything, so that's fine. Well, and not for me, but I don't know if Mr. Heck had one, and I see him reading off his phone. And
I do have one, I just
Okay.
hate using it.
Okay, then never mind.
I'm analog, I did.
Yeah, I mean, we did it one time, they had provided us with devices, but they were hand-me-down devices and they never were private.
Okay.
And so it fell apart, and that's why we ended up doing what we did. So I've got a dedicated Gmail account that I use strictly for urban renewal business. So, that's something to consider in the future if we want to have a dedicated device, which is TURA business only. That can happen.
I'd rather put the money elsewhere.
Okay. Anything else? Like I say, if there are any problems, have any questions on that, get a hold of Blaine at the IT department. He'll fix that up. Item number 10, Americana Road Project Pay Estimate number 15. As of late this afternoon, I have all signatures required except for that of the chairman of TURA. That will come with the approval this evening under bills and payroll. If that happens, I will fix the signature and request payment tomorrow. Any questions? Item number 11, items for future work session discussion. Is there anything that anybody would
I
like?
think that outreach would be a good one to put on future. That outreach letter that we almost came to it, that seemed to have come up today. Sure. Lopez, there was another thing that you were
Funding.
Yep, and
So I don't know if we want to put it on our funding possibly to see if we want to make a request to the city, how we want to move forward. Even looking at possibly a tax measure. I mean, can we tax your heart?
What we get and how we get it is specified.
We'll
by
specify,
statute.
okay.
And what we basically get, we can get grants, we can get loans technically, we can,
bonds, we can flip bonds.
we can float bonds on a project for that project.
Right.
To bring revenue into our coffers, it's not my bond.
But if you float a bond for that, then you're not taking money from yourself.
Well, let's put it on for discussions and we can figure out how to move forward.
And can we discuss our plan, if we want to amend it to deal with some of the things we talked about today?
This may, that, under those kinds of conditions, that may require that we have Paul Benedetti, attorney. That particular plan
Yes, sir.
is one that would require either in writing from him or him attend. That would require, because that one.
Would that be a first step, or would we want to have like a work session first?
Well, we've got to make
Set it
a
out.
determination of why, one, are we going to be able to amend the plan to, where we want to go? Yeah, we need to discuss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to discuss how and why we want to amend the plan. I'll put them on. Anything else?
That'd be a big work session.
Yeah.
We'd probably remove something.
Bring dinner.
That'd be, we may want to put that one off to a future work session, because that's going to be a bigger deal than.
We can have some discussion on it.
We can open the door.
There you go.
We'll open the door.
Love it.
All right, is there anything else? Anything else that you want to have for future? Okay, then, we're going to go into the regular meeting. It is 7:11 p.m. This is the regular meeting of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is May the 11th, 2023. Item number 1 is a roll call, please.
Bailey?
Here?
Cochran?
Here?
Heck?
Here?
Howard?
Here?
Leone?
Here.
Lopez?
Here.
Grego?
Here. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of the Trinidad Urban Renewal meeting, April 2023.
Motion to approve minutes.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Howlett with the motion to approve. Commissioner Cochran with the second. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Heck?
Yes?
Howard?
Yes?
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 3, acceptance of the financial report. Information was provided in the packet for everybody's advanced review. Is there a motion, please?
I make a motion to accept the financial report.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Leone with the motion to accept with a second by Commissioner Heck. Any questions or comments? Just one comment from me. You'll notice that there was a little bit of money that came into coffers last month. We're sitting at a grand total right now, $7,530 after 4 months. So not too bad. Got something, but better than zero or almost zero as we got in the past. Roll call.
Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Heck?
Yes?
Howard?
Yes?
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 4, 4A, consideration of bills. Kip Hamden LLP for the facade renovation incentive application. Project is complete. Amount requested and approved was $8,000. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Bailey with the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Leone with the second. Comments?
Good work.
Questions? Roll call.
Bailey?
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Alice,
Yes?
Leonie,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4B, payment to Paul Benedetti for legal services provided in the month of April 2023. The amount is $1,800.
Motion to approve?
I'll second that too.
Commissioner Howlett with the motion to approve, Commissioner Bailey with the second, am I correct?
Yes.
Comments, questions?
Comment. The way you and Ed are working together and him coming on board and where we are right now, very, very good.
Paul?
Yeah, the way, what's that?
You mean Paul? You said Ed.
No, the way Ed is working with Paul and the way they've been able to do things and how that's flowing right now, I just think that's really been very beneficial. And that's a tip of the hat to the chair.
Emails work real well. One of the things that I would like to mention is, and I did ask Paul to segregate the amounts that or track the amounts that are related to the Hughes lumber property, because you're going to see this. One of the things that if and when that property gets sold, the agreement with the city is that we will, there will be net proceeds after expenses. So we want to make sure that some of all these charges that are applicable to that, we can track them for the city of Trinidad when we have a reconciliation and we get our share of the net proceeds. So he has agreed to that, and I think he's got them tracked anyway, but there'll be a better tracking on that so that we know how much we've been allocating toward legal expenses toward the sale of that property. So there has been a motion and there's been a second. Any further questions or comments? If not, roll call, please.
Bailey,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Alice,
Yes?
Leonie,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4C, Purgatory Valley Construction for the Americana Road Project in the amount of $113,741.70. And just to let everyone know that as of late this afternoon, I have Carl Gabrielson's signature, the project manager for that project, was sent to me. So the only, at this particular time, the only lacking signature will be that of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority, of which if it's approved tonight, I will affix it so the payment can be issued tomorrow.
Motion to approve Purgatory Valley Construction American Road Project in the amount of $100,013,741.70, contingent upon the chair of TURA's signature.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Howlett with a second by Commissioner Leone. Any further questions or comments?
Has anybody been down that yet?
Yeah, it looks great.
It's beautiful. Really nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think it'll
They
be,
even redid the bridge. I'm pretty sure they're gonna do something about the bump before the
Yeah,
bridge.
it's really nice. There's still things going on down there. This project should
Yeah.
come to final fruition in the not too distant future. We won't be seeing these coming across our table any longer. We will also be looking at, there are the payments that we're going to have to be in charge of, which includes their TIF contribution. And I think we're also the steward of the funds for the sales tax that they're also entitled to as a result of the cooperation agreement. So that will be ongoing for TURA to be approving at some
Great investment.
in the future. Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Bailey,
Yes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Alice,
Yes?
Leonie,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 5, communication, petitions or communications, oral or written. Is there anyone in the sitting audience or anybody viewing via go-to meetings that would like to address Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? We'll ask for a second time, is there anybody in the sitting audience or anybody on go-to meetings that would like to address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? Let the record reflect that no one has come forward requesting to communicate with Trinidad Urban Renewal. Item number 6, old business, there is none of record. Item number 7, new business. New business, item number 7A is a renewal of the lease, short-term, with Earth Mountain Education Farm Incorporated. This is for the land located on the corner of Linden and White Avenues, more commonly known as the Trinidad Community Garden. Provided a copy of that modified lease or the amended lease for everyone in the on TURA. I hope you had an opportunity to review. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the Earth Mountain Education lease, updated and amended lease.
I'll second.
Commissioner Howlett with the second and with the motion, Commissioner Hecht with the second. Any further questions or comments? Roll call.
Lakeland,
Yes.
Cochran,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Leoni,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. I will contact Joni Steiner that we can get together and sign it, and I'll get her $6 and we will good to go for the next few months.
Well,
That's money in the bank.
Item number 7, reports by executive director. And again, we have no executive director. I sit as chairman and I conduct and manage business affairs of Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. I would like to report that on April the 24th, 2023, I did attend as by invitation from the City of Trinidad, the Development Services Director, Healy, to attend an area-wide planning meeting with Stantec, who is doing I'll let you elaborate on that.
On the area-wide planning. So yes, Stantec has been, it's through an EPA grant, so it's a brownfields assessment. And in addition to the brownfield assessment, it's also going to cover some other area-wide planning elements. So there's a couple different types of groups that we are kind of established under their process. And one of them is the working group. That's for pretty much city staff and then also some presidents of applicable boards. And Dr. Echo of the college is also on there. Yep. And then there's going to be the next group that's going to get interviewed by Stantec to get their feedback is the stakeholder group, and that's going to be business owners and other folks on board. And so if anybody has any interest in that, I can put you in touch with Stantec. It'll be about 3 interviews with them.
So I was there.
You were in the working group, yes.
Also on the 6th of May, last Saturday, I did attend the open house at East Street School down on East Street. If anybody hasn't had the opportunity to go and look at this, because I think it is pretty much open. It's a work space, and to transition to that property is amazing.
Amazing.
You have to go inside and see it, so if you haven't, please take that opportunity.
What is it?
It's an old elementary school, over 100 years old. It's down on East First Street. It's visible from Main Street down on the east end, but you gotta go up on First Street. It was a Dana Crawford revitalization project, and it's an amazing building. If you haven't seen it, you gotta go take a look at it.
Incredible job.
School there.
That's cool.
Oh, really?
I went there the second year, it was 100 years ago. And lastly, I want to mention that a couple of days ago, CIRSA had a informational seminar in Pueblo. It was, and I did in the handouts that I provided everybody. I brought you back the information that was there. They're going to make it all digital as well, so there's going to be more training. But I encourage everybody to look at that and take to heart what it says in there, because it is all the do's and don'ts to keep us and you out of trouble when conducting anything involving the city of Urban Renewal Authority. That's all that took place for me over the past 30 days, in addition to taking care of other matters that I've been doing. Item number 9, reports by commissioners. And all that. Mr. Cochran?
Just what I mentioned about the meeting tomorrow, the first episode.
But we're not invited anyways.
No, it's,
Mr. Hecht?
No.
Mr. Lloyd? Mr. Bailey? That's it, it doesn't look like there's anything else.
Don't feel bad other than that.
Item number 10, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second that.
I think you were just slightly ahead, Commissioner Young.
Good work, all.
Motion and a second. Regarding dissenting votes, we will consider this meeting to be concerned. This meeting to be adjourned at 7:25 PM.
Thank you for the